Good afternoon. You're listening to the Rogue Patriot podcast, taking the word patriot back. We've got a good one for you today. I'm fired up.
Yeah, so on today's podcast, what we have chosen to talk about is racism. Not just racism, but the people that bitch about it the most.
This is a general trend, I think, and a lot of people aren't going to like me saying this, but it seems, and this is true with multiple things in life, but the people who cry the most about equality in other people typically are the perfect example of that quality.
They're the problem.
Yes. In this case, what just blows my mind is that for the past, since Trump has been elected anyway, maybe a little bit before, one of the go-to insults that the right has used against the left is calling the left snowflakes for being offended at everything. Like little sissy boys. And the fact is, as I see it anyway, there's a whole bunch of crying and whining on the left about social justice issues, for sure. In particular, coming from like Los Angeles and New York and those kind of places.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll be damned if I have heard more bitching about quote-unquote racism from anybody more than Trump supporters.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
In particular, white Trump supporters.
Yeah.
It is absolutely insane to me how much bitching these people can do about racism. And it's just so funny to me that anytime anybody is called a racist, and you see, I'm speaking in a generalization here, and it's not true. It's not every time, but it's a solid 95% of the time. The mainstream media calls anybody racist. The right cries out in opposition, and oh, everybody's a racist now, and oh my God, if you go to a Mexican restaurant, you must be a racist, and all this kind of stuff. Because yeah, the point that they're trying to make is often silly, but the response shouldn't be nobody's racist then ever, while you're also saying, well, actually, I think the most racism's against the white people. It's like, well, dude, did you ever stop and think that the reason that you are feeling that way is because you're white and you see it that way? But if you're not white and you're bitching about racism against whatever your ethnicity is, they're full of shit.
Yeah.
So where is this ideological justification coming from? I don't understand how people can be so confident in detailing the experience of somebody else's life, but then also hypocritically stating the same thing about their life.
Right. So I think that should really be a large point of this podcast, is not saying that everybody's racist or everybody's not racist. Like, oh, if you're white and you're Republican, that you're racist against black people. No, that's obviously not true. I've known plenty of Republicans being white males that are not racist in any way. But then again, I've known some that are. And also but the other point to also point out is, while they're feeling attacked, like everyone's, like people are saying, the left rather is saying that, oh, if you're Republican and you're white, then obviously you're a racist. Well, you're giving them the same lack or benefit of the doubt that when they're on the left side, that all they do is bitch, moan, whine because they're offended by something. Just because you're offended by something and you say something about it, you stand up for it. I'm gonna say Black Lives Matter again in this podcast. Just because you stand up for that doesn't mean you're bitching, whining, and moaning. Maybe if you're on the right side, you should stop and think, hey, maybe there's an actual issue that we need to fix, that needs to be seen to. And that's what the left side is trying to do, is not bitch. Now, that's not to say that I haven't heard some whining like little babies, but I've heard Republicans whine like little babies.
Right. And that is, yeah, of course, the point that we're trying to make really, and really the reason that I wanted to do this episode today is because I'm mad at the people who bitch about race the most. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have anything to do with the actual issue. It has to do with the people who just drape themselves in that issue.
And take pity from it. Well, try to take pity from it. It's this whole image of they've got it the worst.
Right. And the thing is, that has been there. I mean, for minorities, there have been civil rights people making that case. I mean, since John F. Kennedy, and obviously way before that. I mean, you can go back to, I guess, the 1600s, but in recent times, they have been making that case forever. What irritates the shit out of me is that in the past, 4 years, and this was going on some with Obama too, or under Obama, where this I guess, point of view, quote unquote, was making it into the mainstream. But in particular, the past little bit, it's just all of these right-wing white guys bitching about how much they experience prejudice for being white. And I'm not saying that's not a thing. Again, I'm not talking about the actual issue here. I'm talking about the people who bitch about it the most.
Yeah.
And the fact that the people who bitch about it the most bitch about other people bitching about it the most.
Yeah.
It's just an insane position to you got to twist yourself in a pretzel.
Yeah.
To make that work. And now what we're seeing, and this is definitely a consequence of social media, is that there are all of these little pop-up political personalities. And all they do is just jump on one party's bandwagon and then just wave that flag as loud as they can. And the more obnoxious that they can be about stating their points, the more they're defining their brand, I guess. And they get followers and all this kind of shit. And what it turns into is we have these fucking guys on Instagram that are like, you know what? I'm going to stand up and say it. There's way more racism against white people than anybody else. And you get these crazy fucking things that people say.
It's of course you're going to say that because you're the one that feels attacked. So what about the person that's saying it on the opposite side?
Right, exactly. And are you so mentally deficient that you can't think that far ahead? Are you that? Because you're either that, A, or B, you are jumping onto the mainstream opinion, or at least an opinion that you can dial in to try to profit or get something for yourself.
Also the mainstream opinion of your political party. Because, I mean, if you look on it and it's not the right side, it's going to say the exact opposite.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
You're going to have a black person claiming the same thing, that, more racism exists with them. And again, that's not saying that it doesn't. I mean, there's obviously an issue, definitely with, police brutality and stuff like that. There's definitely an issue there.
Yeah, and in a bunch of other sectors as well. That is such a enormously huge subject. It's impossible to really sum up. I mean, obviously, but
so I have a question.
Yeah,
and this is totally personal opinion, no facts, nothing like that.
I like it.
Yeah, personal question, I guess. I don't even know if you consider it that, but I don't know if anyone else out there notices or feels like it's always white and black people battling it out. And I say that because I grew up in a town to where we had quite a few Hispanics as well. And now I live in an area that we have quite a few Asians as well. And you
don't see the same problems.
You don't see the same problems, but I mean, if you live in some small country hick town, and it's separated by white and black people, you're definitely going to hear more of a white person's complaint and a black person's complaint. They're both going to say that the opposite is racist against them. They're going to stand by that. And it's oh my gosh, okay, not every white person's a racist. Not every black person's. I know me as a white person, I have had black people be racist to me.
Yes, I have too.
I have watched white people I know be racist to my black friends.
Yes, agreed.
So it obviously exists on both sides. If you argue with that, you're a dumbass. Just go ahead and accept that. Listen to this podcast. Yeah. You are a dumbass. It exists on both sides. But my thing is, my personal question or just thought is, it is always white and black people battling it out on, there's racism that exists. Hispanics are so quiet about that.
Yes.
And Asians are so quiet about that. I'm meaning any ethnicity. If you're not white and you're not black, you're not bitching. That's what it seems like. That is what it seems. And it's so weird to me. Why do white people and black people have to battle it out like this?
That's so funny.
I know. I'm serious.
Well, I don't have a. I mean, I don't.
I don't
there
think
is, like,
anybody has an
answer
answer.
to
And the
that.
thing is, when people are battling this, whether it's a political view or whatever that has to do with, you know, white or black people being racist, I don't think anybody steps back and thinks, hey, you know, the rest of the world seems to be turning. The rest of the ethnicities seem to be living, you know, and they're not. And I've always found that funny.
So I have a theory. I've got a 5-second theory for you.
Okay, I'm willing to hear it.
Actually, in 2 parts.
I'm willing to hear anybody's theory on this, by the way.
Right, yeah, because
not gonna say you're right. I'm just
question.
I'm legit curious how you won't get that much bitching. Even when I've watched Asians and I've watched Asians, look at here recently with the coronavirus. They have been bullied because it's been labeled the Chinese virus. I don't give a shit it came from China. That's a horrible title, first off. But okay, it got a lot of Asians attacked. And I think even like one family, was it in Texas, got them stabbed and killed in public because, oh, you brought the virus over here. So it caused that kind of hatred.
Stabbed a toddler.
It caused that kind of hatred. But yet, I have not seen a bunch of Asians posting like crazy, like, oh, these racist white people, these racist black people, you haven't heard them, bitch. And I grew up in a town where, you know, we were right next to another town that was, the population majority was Hispanic. And so I knew a bunch of Hispanics, and none of them bitched about, even when I would watch my Hispanic friends have people be racist towards them.
Yeah.
They never would give in to that. It's like every other ethnicity just, okay, you know, and they move on with their lives. But white people are going to bitch about black people being racist, and black people are going to bitch about white people being racist. Again, not saying it doesn't exist. It's definitely there on both sides. Whether it's as much as people say or not, okay, I'll let y'all figure that out. But I'm just saying. Yeah, absolutely. Like, it happens with other ethnicities too.
It does. And I think that there are 2 pieces to that. One piece is I used to work in an area that was predominantly immigrant, and from people all over the world. And it was actually, I think, the most diverse square mile, definitely in the country and maybe in the world. Ton of different ethnicities.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that's definitely.
And I would talk to them about this because that area was a very hotly contested political sphere. There were a lot of government corruption in that area, and then a lot of like really underhanded political stuff. And the overwhelming opinion from people there and then elsewhere, just that I've met in my travels or whatever, there is a huge mentality, it seems, through recently immigrated people to shut up, keep your head down, work, and ultimately get what you want anyway, because you're going to work for it. And there's not so much, I mean, look, you know, and this is a very basic way of looking at it, but if you have immigrated to the U.S. from Somalia or Rwanda or the Congo or hell, and recently Venezuela, are you really going to give a shit that, you know, one of the biggest political issues here is like, oh, well, do people deserve welfare? It's like, well, shit. I mean, Somalia doesn't have a government. So like the scale of issues that they were dealing with from where they came from might be so much larger than what's going on here. They don't care to be a part of it.
So what you're saying is they know to be grateful for what America has to offer.
Because they're intimately aware of the opposite.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I definitely think, but that is in return saying that white and black people have both been too pampered. And and let me say, this is not my personal opinion. This is not my political view. But basically, I've heard a lot of Republican whites from where I came from talk about how blacks have way too many handouts. It's, you know, they have welfare, they have food stamps, they have all these handouts. Granted, there are white people and other people too that get that, but they always make a point to say that blacks get these handouts. And then you have blacks, where I came from, saying that whites have it so easier, whether it's so much easier for them because they get a job easier, they can get a car easier. I mean, that may be true for some. It hasn't been exactly true for me, but I'm just wondering how we all look, black and white, to immigrants who probably think that both blacks and whites have been given it the easy route, too many handouts. I mean, compared to what they've been through, you know, and then we're sitting over here in a country battling about who's more racist.
Yeah.
That's
a luxury.
Yeah.
That's a luxury issue. Pretty much all of our issues are. And some people would get really mad at hearing that, but I think you just have no perspective if you think otherwise. You know.
Well, I mean, you hear, it's also the way people talk about, like, their freedom of speech. We have freedom of speech here. People are saying it's being taken away, but if your freedom of speech, if it's being taken away, that you're posting it's being taken away on social media,
right.
and your meme is about it being taken away, but yet you're posting it, guess what? You still have your freedom of speech. And in those countries, a lot of them, they don't have freedom of speech. So if you're able to bitch about it, you've already got it better than these countries do.
Yeah, most countries don't have freedom of speech the way we do. There's very, very few that do. I mean, even Germany's the largest economy in Europe. They don't have it the way that we do. So, I mean, there's a lot that goes into that. And I think that it really boils down to white people and black people have been in the U.S. the longest. And so, I think the history there of, 300 years of dealings, and really more like closer to 400, is what spawns a lot of those issues. And also the fact that, I mean, I feel like the way I just said that kind of discounts how much disproportionate racism. I mean, black people have been subjugated in the United States to such a crazy degree throughout the majority of the country's history that, like, you can't talk about this in the way that I just did without bringing that up, because I mean, this is why I think this issue is more loaded for me to hear as well, is that the people that are just like, oh, well, you know what? It's over. They could vote in 1964 or whatever, and you know what? Everything's fine now.
The problem is bigger
so
than that.
Wild, man. Yeah, because look, your ancestors, assuming that your ancestors have been in the U.S. for longer than the 1960s, you have an established society. You've been woven into society's wealth mechanisms and growth and education and all that stuff in ways that minorities were not until like 40 years ago.
Well, I mean, the thing
so
is
fuck you if you think that everything is just all good now because we voted Obama in 2008 and now nobody's racist anymore. You're a fucking
the whole
idiot.
time there was plenty of people being racist just because he was in office.
Yeah, and
so that right there shows it exists, that it didn't just go away with voting. That it's the same concept of saying, women in all society is treated equal as man. No, it's not. Totally not. We have the right to vote, but speaking as a female, no matter what ethnicity I am, I mean, I'm white, but speaking as a female, trying to make a career in the career path that I have, doesn't matter if I come in with more experience than a male. Every job I have worked at, the men that have started working there after me that are white males have made more money than I have.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's
still
the thing.
The not being equal to a white male, really a male, but definitely a white male in society, and all you white men can get pissed off at me pointing that out, but white males they run the job world. They run a lot of society. So denying that is just stupid anyway, because white people are the majority anyway.
Yeah,
they're
and
not
that's
the
a
minority.
Huge point. White people in the U.S. are the majority. So it won't be that way forever, but it is right now. So a lot of these points that are made on both sides are no shit points, because it's like, yes, white people are going to be killed by the cops more. That does not mean police brutality does not exist.
But if the percentage,
there are more whites in this country.
Can we pull the phrase from Trump, the per capita?
The per capita of the capita, yeah.
Yeah, the per capita of the capita. Yeah, okay. So when you're looking at the percentage, how does that look? If there's more white people and more white people are getting killed, well, let me tell you something. 50% of the white people are getting killed, 50% of the black people are getting killed. The numbers are smaller in black people, but they're the minority.
Right.
The percentage is still the same.
Yeah, the same or larger depending on the
Which, by the
area.
way, that statistics is not right. It's like, I think a larger percentage, isn't it? Or it's like it's number wise, there's a smaller group of black people killed, but percentage, it's more of their percentage of their population.
It's definitely a higher percentage than it is for white people, even though, right, and this is where it's a higher percentage, but the overall number is lower.
Exactly.
For fuck's sakes, you idiots that could not make it through middle school math, understand that before you make your next dumbass Instagram post.
Exactly.
Okay? We're not saying...
So if it's like saying this for you dumbasses that don't understand. If you have a bag of M&Ms and someone only has, 6 M&Ms left, but the other person... Let's say the 6 M&Ms is John and Susie has 60. And somebody wants to come in and take 50% of both. Well, who's left with less? Who's going to be hurt by that more? Or look at it money-wise for a lot of you people that can only think of it materialistic or money-wise. If you only have $6 and this other person has $60.
Yeah,
now, you
exactly.
may say that the person's taking... it's the same percentage. And you may say, oh, well, this person... had more taken because it was $30 taken from the one who had $60, and the one who had $6 only had 3 taken. Well, the person that had 60 also has 30 left, and the person that had 6 only has 3 left. So who is hurt by that more?
Yep.
And when you're looking at that in human lives, that's in population.
Right.
That is
that's how that works. That's
so
how those numbers
it also
work.
means that if the percentage is higher for the white male, that means that there's more white people committing crime, which I have seen all over social media, that if black people just wouldn't commit crimes, they wouldn't die. And oh, look, well, there is, police brutality against white people. So, it exists there too, and it's actually a higher percentage. Well, it also means that you assholes are the ones committing more crime. There's a larger percentage of white people committing the crimes to get cops called out on them. Yeah,
and that also means there is a problem with police brutality.
No,
that's
the other thing. They sit there. They say that there's not a problem with police brutality and how they support cops and stuff, and then they turn around and present something saying, "Oh, well, see, cops kill white people too." Okay, well then you're turning around and saying that there is a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
You're being a hypocrite again.
Oh God, this. I don't think this is a new problem for this country. The how fluid opinions are and how hypocritical people are. I don't think that's new, but damn it, we see it so much clearer now with social media, since everybody just can spit it out instantly. You see how few people have actual principles and how many people are just jumping on whatever riptide they can jump on, that it looks like a bunch of other people are there too.
So much social media though is screenshots with different wording put over it.
Yeah, so much of it's just fake.
It's so fake, and I see this all the time, but it's also videos that are clipped to make it look worse than what it is, or to make it look bad when it's not bad at all, like someone's speech or something. And I know they've done that to Trump before, but they've also done it to Obama. They've done it to they do it in a lot of instances, and it's nerve-wracking.
Right. And God, that's a huge point. That's a huge point too, is that when information is being disseminated that way, there's just all kinds of chaos is going to create, which obviously foreign powers know and exploit.
Exactly. And it's this is going to definitely be one-sided. Like I try not to be Republican or Democrat my views. Like it's fairly easy for me because I don't like a lot of the opinions on either side. Some of them is right, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, me either.
But a lot of it is just bullshit. But one thing I will say for sure is the Republicans that I do know are really big on this. And that is, they will not fact check while continuously saying they're fact checking. I will watch them share something on social media, and I will know for a fact that it was either taken out of context or clipped in a video to not include the whole speech or something. And the same thing with articles, to where they screenshot and they put different wording over it, and that's not even what the articles, that's not its main point, it's not what it's saying at all. but they will share this and be like, see, this is what's really happening. Wake up, America, which, by the way, I fucking hate that saying because it gets on my nerves. I see so many people say, wake up, America. I don't think anybody's fucking sleeping, okay? Like,
no.
Shut up. Sit down and shut up. But they will sit there and share something that has been clipped and modified and everything. And then if you point it out to them and you're like, well, actually, this is the point of the article. What you have is a screenshot that has nothing to do with it or something along those lines. Every time they're like, actually, I do check my stuff. Okay. I fact check everything. And, my eyes are open and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, well, first off, no, you didn't. No, you did.
Because you didn't read that article.
Republicans love saying that they have researched something and they have fact-checked something, while it is blatantly obvious that they did not check a damn thing on the subject that they are preaching about.
Yep, and this is another issue with party before principles, and that's because it's just easier to go along with something. And people have their minds made up before they know anything about an issue because somebody else, some political huckster, is making their minds up for them. Mm-hmm. And these folks don't realize it at all.
Yeah, and I think that fits in very well with the bitching of racism. Because
I
see
so
much taken out of
it does.
So much taken out of context. Like,
yeah, if people actually read the articles that they reposted, there would be a lot more informed opinions in this area, especially on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. But nobody does. They just see a headline that suits them. And a lot of times, you know what? Actually, I'm going to take that back because a lot of the times they don't even do that. And this is one of the more interesting points about this issue, I think, is that this is one of the most factless areas that's argued about so intensely today. This isn't even a like my facts versus your facts thing, as much as it is just I'm pulling this directly out of my ass and throwing it in your face thing. And the posts that I see about race, with people bitching about race, let me say that, not just about race in general, specifically people bitching about race, there's never any data, there's never anything. It's just some bullshit that somebody came up with and now they're thrown out on social media.
Because it helps spread hate, which seems to be
and
the white and black people.
Pity.
It gains pity, but it spreads hate. And that seems to be, I'm not saying every white person, I'm not saying every black person, but if you look at America while standing from the outside, or that seems to be the main goal, is to spread hate and misinformation and whatever gets a war started within our own country and to get the focus off of the political leaders, everyone who actually has power, because it keeps those citizens battling between themselves, be it pointing fingers at the other side. They do the same thing on Democrat or Republican, but they do the same thing with race. They play those people to fight each other and think there's an issue that, honestly, if people would just, I'm going to say it, open your fucking eyes and pay attention. I'll go ahead and say it. Everybody loves that saying so much. Open your fucking eyes. And see, there'd be less of a problem if y'all would just stop spewing the hate and spreading hate that, honestly, if it wasn't a bunch of memes and it wasn't a bunch of people just being stupid and following these, not even articles, but just everything that these people put out there to get people fighting, there wouldn't even be as big of a racist issue. But they're so busy wanting to point at the other one and be like, well, I'm not racist, you're racist. And it's like, nobody said you were. It said racist exists.
Yeah, and that is offensive.
Racism exists, and that's the thing.
And there you go. Who does that offend? The real fucking snowflakes.
Exactly.
The real snowflakes are the ones who flip out every time anybody mentions racism ever. Those are the snowflakes, not the people who've been bitching about it for the past 60 to 400 years. They're just doing the same thing they've been doing.
And again, bringing up racism isn't whining. It's not being a baby. It's not that you get offended by everything. That's not what that is. That is seeing there's an issue and saying, hey, we need to work on this.
Yeah,
let's work on it as a country.
You would only be threatened by that if you are a perpetrator of it. That's what's so crazy about this to me, too, is that the people... There has not been one opinion that I have seen from any of the racism isn't real people that isn't profoundly them being threatened. No, it all comes from that place. And this is a major this is generally not a good way to make a point, what I'm about to do, but why the fuck are you so offended if it doesn't apply to you? For me, I'm
Because
a white
they're
male.
saying
You
they're
can
groups.
bitch about white men all you want. I am not going to get offended by that. I am not that easily threatened. I am not that insecure. If you are, then clearly you are that insecure and that easily threatened, to where anybody bitching about people who barely look like you, who just vaguely look like you, gets under your skin, then you're hiding something, you're dumb, or you just don't get it.
Well, the thing is, if you're going to say that that's, that you're not racist and that you shouldn't be included in that, okay, fine. You don't want to be grouped as, oh, well, all white males are racist, or all white people are, okay, fine. You don't want to be included in that. But maybe the first step is recognizing there's a problem and then being like, you know what? Yeah, we should all stand up for there not to be any racism and try to make a difference over it. And this goes for black people too. I'm not just talking about white men. I'm not just talking about white people. I'm talking about anybody. If you see an issue with it, stop. And I hate the way Facebook especially, maybe Instagram does it more. I use Facebook more, but I hate the way people will talk about racism. And I've seen this. I have seen this a lot from. I'll go ahead and say it. I've seen it from white people and black people, both, to where they will say that there's an issue with racism, point fingers at the opposite race, but the way that they do it and saying we need to fix this is to spread more hate and say, oh, well, this white person deserves it, this black person deserves it.
Yeah, you can't do that.
So they turn around and they're saying, oh, well, there's an issue, but since y'all are racist, we're going to be racist too and say you all need your heads blown off.
Yeah, no.
Or, something like that. And it's like, well, you're not fixing
it.
You're part of the issue, and you yourself, again, are racist.
Yeah, absolutely. Rape is really bad, except for all those people that I want to be raped. Like, what the fuck does that mean? That's an insane position to take, and people do that with race all the time.
Exactly.
And it's like, okay, so you're standing in a room full of men. Who's going to seem more, I'm just going to use this example again, but who's going to seem more like the rapist? The person who says, yeah, rape is really awful and shouldn't ever happen, or the guy that's like, yeah, there's no rape. No rape. Doesn't happen. Not anymore.
The sad thing is that does happen.
Yeah, I know. That exact example plays out. But who seems more like the rapist there? I mean, this is not something... Look, saying that racism exists is not an aggressive statement to make against anybody unless you are profoundly racist.
Yep.
That should not be a crazy thing to say. And, it's
not
just
wanting to
so
recognize
stupid.
the problem, because if the problem was recognized, maybe the force of fixing it and correcting it would come down on you, and that's why you feel threatened.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, equality is not detrimental to anybody who isn't a huckster in some kind of way. The only people who don't benefit from equality are the people who are fucking all of us in one kind of way or another.
Exactly.
The people who don't benefit from equality are the Jeff Bezoses and the Bill Gates and the Sheldon Adelsons and the Mark Zuckerbergs. They do not benefit from equality. And the same thing goes for politicians in a lot of cases. The Nancy Pelosi's, the Donald Trumps, they don't benefit from equality because they're scamming the system to get to where they are. Yep. So they have now sold this lie that, look, if we try to promote equality, it's going to take away from you. You specifically, not just your race, because we can't say that directly. Mm-hmm. Not just your country. It's going to take away from you. Where do you think this shit came from where immigrants are coming and taking your jobs? Where did that come from? I mean, that is not something
it's
that
the same
you can
thing.
prove.
We were talking with someone about this earlier. It's the same thing where people say that they're trying to take God out of the Pledge of Allegiance and stuff like that. It's
just manufactured. It's manufactured bullshit.
Where did this go in a speech? Hey, my when I become president, I'm a Democrat, and my goal is to take God out of schools and take God out of the pledge. And no.
Yeah, no. Nobody's going to win on that. Nobody anywhere, even in the heart of the devil, heart of hell, New York City, you're not going to win on that platform, period. And guess what? All of the big city Democrats that all the Republicans and conservatives hate are all religious. Yeah. And almost all of them are Christian.
So I think...
So, like, where's this boogeyman?
Yeah, so I think the main points that any idiots, racists, people can take from this is, first off, if you take offense when someone talks about racism and it offends you and you don't want to talk about it, you need to check yourself. And when someone talks about racism, instead of feeling it like it's a threat or looking at it that way, change the wording in your own mind, because it's easy to say, oh, well, racism exists. Okay, fine. You're taking that aggressively. Instead, be a critical thinker and reword it yourself. More equality needs to be seen throughout the country. Think of it in a way that we should support equality. Maybe instead of saying we should stop racism, say we should support equality. Yeah. Try rewording it in your own mind to where you don't take offense to someone discussing a very big issue anyway, because it is an issue, but that also doesn't mean you need to go around bitching about you're the one that's attacked by the issue. Do something that makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think at the current point that our country is in, simply not taking offense would be a giant improvement. Yep. In the national conversation. And it's unfortunate that there are so many political leaders that are willing to stoke those flames for their own personal gain.
Also not be in the mode of, this person just said this, how can I argue with it? People are so quick to immediately, it doesn't even matter if what they said was, hey, don't kill that 2-year-old child standing in the streets, Yeah. It's like, people's minds are in America, nowadays society, as much as people fight, it is like their minds are trained to, instead of agreeing with someone or critically thinking about something, it's how can I go against what they say, do the exact opposite so we can have an argument, a debate, and I can be heard.
Yep, and I can be right.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with being wrong, and there's nothing wrong with evolving your opinions on something as you grow as a human being. And in fact, what's wrong is not doing those things.
Not listening and not trying to make a difference.
Yeah, and just not trying to think of something in a better way.
And I think that is one way that in thought, America is great. Obviously, we're not succeeding at it right now, but it's great that people have the right to speak out on something.
Right.
And we have the ability to make a difference and to stop something bad. So, yeah, sure, keep America great, but do it in making a difference with the issues that are obviously there. Stop trying to argue with them. Stop trying to be right. Stop being dumbasses. Actually try to make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? That point is the reason that the name of this podcast is The Rogue Patriot, because America is more of an idea than a thing. And that's the reason that this country has been so successful in its existence. And that's the reason that so many people have come here. The world's most successful businesses have started here. Whole new sectors of world economies start here because of those collection of ideas. That's what is great. And to me, being a patriot and being patriotic means adherence to those ideas. Definitely not adherence to any person or political party. Definitely not those two things, because that really is where the downfall of everything lies. That's where we go back to a kingdom instead of a democracy or a republic. And that's where we go back to tyranny and all of these things that were swirling around. And look, early American literature, or rather early American history, the founding documents, the Federalist Papers, the Constitution, the Articles of Confederation, all of these documents that went into the founding of the country all point to how negative it is to have large numbers of people pledging ultimate allegiance to a single person. Yep. That is a kingdom by default. That is what that means. And it is insane how in the past 30 years, how much we have backslid towards that. And there's a number of reasons for that, which we will cover, I'm sure, multiple times in multiple different ways. But this is a great example of it, where there are talking heads on both sides and people just immediately sign their name under that person, under that opinion.
Well, you hear about it all the time with voting. People are like, oh, yeah, I'm Republican. Oh, yeah, I'm Democrat. And they go and just check off whatever they are.
Exactly.
They don't research the person. They don't see what they're standing for, anything.
Which, you know what? I think would be pretty great if it was not legal to have parties stated on voting ballots.
I don't agree with it. I've always thought that there shouldn't be parties.
No, and you most definitely should not have to say what party you are to be able to vote on your voter registration.
Yep.
That is such a fucking crock. Look, race is a big issue, but the way that we talk about it is as big of an issue,
if not bigger.
Yeah. And honestly might be harder to actually solve, because it's a whole lot easier to fix systems than it is to fix people. And we have a sick system right now, and we always have in one form or another. And, you know, we could make it 1,000% better tomorrow, and in 50 years, everybody would be talking about how sick it is. That's just how human culture evolves. And there's nothing wrong with that. But, man, when people cannot simply open their eyes, I'll make one last point here. What is also frustrating about this, as is a lot of these very partisan issues, is that these opinions, they don't come from people's own experience, like hardly ever. They are so obviously manufactured, because nobody living, just paying any level of attention, would draw an opinion like we're hearing on the issue of race. And it just makes it so much more frustrating to know that these are not legitimate opinions coming from people who are paying attention in society and, like, you know, seeing different articles, seeing different events, like synthesizing information, putting it together themselves. No, these are so obviously just designed to get us all fighting with each other, while the people actually in power run to the bank.
Yep.
Well, anyway, this has been another wonderful episode of the Rogue Patriot, bitching about the people who bitch about race. I like it. I like these kind of rants. Anyway, please subscribe, like, and comment on our podcast, The Rogue Patriot, on iTunes or wherever you happen to be listening to this on. Also, you can contact us at theroguepatriotpodcast@gmail.com. Comments, questions, whatever, topics are greatly appreciated. I'm really enjoying doing this. I think Selena's enjoying doing it as well. It's a good time to get on here and bitch, moan, and complain. And also maybe, you know, talk about some interesting ideas. But anyway, also check us out on YouTube, The Rogue Patriot. Like, comment, subscribe there as well. Thank you very much for listening. We'll see you next time.